coach and nutritionist. So, I'll welcome you all to today's live session. And I'll be hosting today's session, and we have a very interesting topic today, which is mindfulness. And we have our expert, Maria, who is also a mindfulness coach, certified Neuro Leadership Institute life coach, certified 6 second emotional intelligent assessor, Yoga Alliance registered instructor who is currently completing masters in mindfulness. So we will get to know a lot about mindfulness from our expert today. Welcome, Maria. We are, honored to have you on board.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for that intro. I kind of refuse the tag or the label of expert, as we are always learning and evolving, but thank you. Thank
So
you.
if you can, we all have we know different definitions about mindfulness, and it would be great if it comes from a person like you. So what would you define, or how would you define mindfulness as?
Um, as a capacity to pay attention with a kind, open heart and without judgment.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Many people believe mindfulness is about paying attention to one single thing, concentrating, and it's not really about that. It's more about the attitude that we have as we are paying attention to whatever arises.
Okay, so it's more about, sensing and feeling without any judgment or any interpretation.
There is an element of non-judgment, but
Mm-hmm.
say if we were to cook something, we put one ingredient and then the other ingredient, which is also equally important, is the sense of kindness, which most people will forget. There was once study they did with two groups of people. Both of them, they were told the exact same instructions: sit down, pay attention to your breath. If your attention goes away, come back to your breath. That one group was told, if your attention goes away, come back to your breath. The other one was told, if your attention goes away, come back to your breath with an attitude of kindness, with softness, with patience, with love towards yourself. What do you think happened at the end of the study? The difference between the two groups was starking. The group that was told to come back to the breath in an attitude of kindness showed reduced levels of stress and reduced reactivity.
That's amazing, right?
So that masala that we put, that kindness, makes a big difference.
Right, right. So, we do have a lot of myths like this, right? Like on mindfulness. So, let's start our, session about busting some of the myths about mindfulness today. So, here we have our first myth, which is you can learn and practice mindfulness only using an app. So, what do you think about it?
Um, this is one of the biggest ones for me because I see so many people jumping on these apps and thinking, okay, now I'm going to meditate. And even though there are some guided meditations that are very powerful, it is really not the same as training with a person who has already walked the path. We are talking about a skill. It's like learning how to sing without without having anyone in front of you who can tell you, hey, you're going off note, or maybe you can use your breath in a better way. So when we have someone to reflect on, someone who can ask us the right questions, we will most likely understand what's happening inside of us through this process of inquiry. One of the reasons, now mindfulness is, if you Google meditation and mindfulness, is so many articles and so many links. And the reason why we have this huge revolution in mindfulness is not because of the technique, it's because of the way it's being taught. There is a certain pedagogy, which is like the science of teaching it, which has to do with the proper inquiry, with with the person who is guiding you to be that skill. This is not the same as teaching maths. You can know technical aspects of mathematics and you know it, and that's it, and you can share it and you can teach it. When you teach mindfulness, you have to be mindfulness and you have to know. And when you have a person in front of you who is mindful, or who acts with an attitude of kindness, non-judgment, and can hold the space in that way, it is much more likely that you will really understand what the practice is than if you read it from a book, or you just play something and you fall asleep every time you're playing it, or your mind goes away and you think, I'm the worst at it, I'm not going to ever meditate because I keep getting distracted. Most likely when you practice with someone who knows, they will guide you to realize that it's normal to get distracted and that you're not doing anything wrong. And if you are doing anything that may not be okay, the process of inquiry will help you understand how you can adjust your practice so that you can really grow in it.
Right, that's really so beautiful, right? Like
Mm.
unless it's about, not it's not like teaching, it's like doing it together. So that's very beautiful.
Truly,
Okay.
and it's a pity because it's one of those skills that enhances all, pretty much all aspects of life, and the interpersonal aspect in mindfulness is one of the most difficult to acquire. We have different aspects in mindfulness, mindful eating, mindful sports, and
Correct.
mindfulness in sport, and there's so many areas. But truly, one of the most difficult aspects in mindfulness is this thing of interpersonal mindfulness, to be aware of what's going on, of your inner attitude, of how you are being in this moment when you're having a dialogue or a conversation. Because usually our attention goes out and we're thinking, what do we want to reply and say back? And we lose it very easily. So when we
Right.
learn to have this conversation, then it is very likely that after the practice, we will still have the qualities to know how to relate to each other in a peaceful, more kind, and aware, present way.
Yeah, that's nice to know,
Hmm.
it's the whole process. That's really nice. So we have our next myth, which is about, anyone who loves to meditate can teach mindfulness.
Yeah, this is another big one that I've experienced myself when I started in this journey of meditation. I remember I was living in Sri Lanka, and I used to ask one of my friends, "Teach me meditation. Teach me how to meditate." And he would be like, "Just sit there at the beach and close your eyes and concentrate." And he used to meditate. I mean, he was ahead of me in this journey in some way. And the truth is, even when you love meditation, the skill of transferring this practice is something that takes time to build. Also, say for example, I may love meditation, and what I do is repeat a mantra in my head, and that helps me quiet the mind. But that is not necessarily mindfulness. That's not necessarily a mindfulness technique. And the skills to know how to ask the right questions are skills to be developed. Say you come to me and you say, I want to learn mindfulness, and then you close your eyes and you say, oh my god, I started thinking of my dad when he was younger at some whatever. And the questions that I ask you at that time are important. If I ask you, why were you thinking of your dad? That's taking you away of the purpose of mindfulness. The question that a person who knows how to teach mindfulness will be, how does it feel? Because it's not about the why. The why will generate more and more thought and more and more thought, and it will keep you in the loop. What we're trying to do in mindfulness is to bring you back here to what's going on right now and what that memory of that thought is making you feel in your body here. So a person who is trained will know how to ask the right questions, and will guide you probably better and in the specific aspect, the specific part of meditation that is mindfulness, which is not like, there are many meditation techniques out there. Mindfulness is something which is quite different from any other meditation technique, and it's not a technique only.
Right, right. So that's really nice to know about it. And does mindfulness take a long time to learn?
This is a very relative question. I know some people may think or may get frustrated, oh my God, when they hear, because um, one of the ways mindfulness got so popular is because of this 8 weeks mindfulness program that John Kabat-Zinn developed back in the 1985, when he was researching with people who would not get cures of different diseases. And he, he was getting them to his basement, and he was like, give them to me, I will do this program with them, and if anything will fail. And then of course he realized over the years that the effects were amazing. And so when you think of an 8 weeks mindfulness program, people think, oh, wow, it's a long time, or it takes a long time. But the truth is, if you think in the course of your life, 8 weeks or it's the same as learning a skill, learning a language, or learning how to paint. You wouldn't, like, you're going to have to put a little bit every day for it to really develop. Now, what happens with this particular skill is once you invest in learning it properly, the quality of your life will increase at a level that you will never regret having invested that time to know how your mind works from inside out, and how you can learn to not react to the content of your mind, to your thoughts. To when someone comes to you and they trigger you, you will have, by default, you will have learned to stay here, to choose how you react, to choose how you respond. And I mean, that skill, if we think over the course of a lifetime, 8 weeks to learn to do that is very short time.
Right, right. That's really actually, like people, they do think that, mindfulness takes a long time to learn. But we have another myth over here, which is the quality of your thoughts determine the quality of your life. That means you can control your thoughts. Is that a myth, a fact? Like, what do you feel about it?
Well, this is something that I see happening a lot in this new age revolution of inspiring quotes going around. One of them goes, "You can control your life, control your thoughts, or the quality of your thoughts is the quality of your life." And some people really, like, when they see these messages, more than helping them is triggering them to be scared of the content of the mind. And that is exactly what we do not want to do. For example, if I were to ask you, Aishwarya, can you know what is the next thought that you're going to have right now?
Yeah.
We have no idea. It's like a lottery of thoughts coming up
Absolutely.
on their own. I'm going to go for a walk, and maybe I'm going to start thinking of that I should get a doggy, or that my husband said this or that. I have no control over what's going to come into my head. So the moment I think something that feels not right or negative, if I see that thought and I think, oh my God, I shouldn't have that thought, I'm the worst, I should control my thoughts, I'm trying to stop the wind with my hand, and that's impossible. But what we can learn to do is to observe the content of the mind, which will keep coming on and on and on, and learn to relate to that differently. So instead of reacting, I just see it as a cloud going up and down. And when I do that, I create distance between what's happening in the mind and what's happening here. And in that act, I am free. I create freedom for myself and for others. Very likely, when we think something, we think that thought is myself. My thought is who I am. But it comes a point in the practice when we realize I'm not my thoughts. So it's interesting to the point here is to teach people, or to remind everyone, that you should not be scared of what comes in your mind. And that is just, it's like being scared of what you're going to see when you walk out. It's just what it is. It's there. But what we learn is to just observe it without reacting, and just letting it be as it is.
Right.
Especially because out of the 100% of thoughts that we have, a big amount of them are thoughts that are related to ourselves and that are negative. I should be this, I should have done that, I'm not tall enough, I'm not skinny enough, all of these thoughts. So when we realize that if we believe what's going on in the mind, we are kind of affecting our quality of life and our own lives. When we learn to observe that content without believing that is true, we are free. But it does take a little, not time as in, it does take training. It does take consistency and persistency to break free from these chains of conditioned ways of relating to our content of our mind.
Right. Just like you told, like a lot of people, they have this notion about, your thoughts are like you are actually what you think about, and we actually control the thoughts. So it was like an eye opener for even me, just we are doing it totally wrong. So thank you for that.
But never to
And
treat ourselves harsh when we see, like, okay, it's just what it is, and we take it in a light-hearted spirit, and it just becomes easier to deal with.
yeah, and that was a nice way of showing, just like a passing cloud. It's just like a passing cloud. You just have to deal with that,
Yes.
right? And the
Be-
last, yeah.
no, I was saying that because if we react to the content of the mind, that is exactly that is absolutely counterintuitive. Like, that's the counter reason why we're doing it, right? So we want to reduce reactivity. The first thing that we learn to reduce reactivity towards is towards the content of the mind. Then we reduce reactivity towards the sensations in the body, which are also a very big trigger for emotions and fluctuations and all. So when we
Right.
learn to observe the posture, for example, in mindfulness, it's quite important to observe the body. It's a big part of the practice, and understand that the body is not different than the mind, and that when we learn to engage with difficulties, with things that don't feel good, with the lower back pain, with the itchiness in the face, and we don't react to that, that is a muscle that we are exercising, the muscle of non-reactivity. So you can imagine what happens after you learn to not react immediately when it's itchy here and there, and then you step out and some guy will be on the road and they will honk, or they will do something that you would most likely react to. And because you've learned to not immediately react, you will observe that and you will laugh internally and you will say, okay. And that moment you will realize, oh my God, this was worth it. So that's something
I
very
must
beautiful.
give that a try now.
Yes, and also, like, another thing, and going back to the first question, which I forgot to mention, when we practice with someone who can guide us with the proper inquiry method, that person will lead us to explore what happens with the difficulties, with the negativity, with what doesn't go right. Because there is where our growth comes from, with the things that we don't like. There is a John Kabat-Zinn, I mentioned him. He's kind of the father of modern mindfulness in some way. There was once a mindfulness forum where everybody came and they were all showing their results with the research that they had done. And one lady came and said, I did this whole program that you gave, and we didn't have those results that you were talking, reduced reactivity, increased awareness, and all of that. And he asked her, how long were they meditating for? And she said, around 15, 20 minutes. And he said, that time is not enough for them to confront their discomfort. So once we reach discomfort, we can do something with it. So every
Right.
time in life when we feel triggered or we feel out of our comfort zone, that's the time when we can use the resources. And that is why difficulties are blessings in so many ways.
Right, right. That explains a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we have a last myth over here, which is mindfulness equals concentrated, intense focus on one single thing.
Yeah, this is one myth that I see everywhere. And it's just when I read it, I breathe deeply and I say, well, this is part of the game, that there is confusion around what mindfulness is. But this one is it's a pity that people believe mindfulness is just the typical pay attention to one thing. That is mindfulness. That is not. Mindfulness itself, the practice, we have two main different lines that we kind of engage the mind in. One is directed awareness, which is usually directed awareness to our breath or to the sounds or to anything. Not sounds, but to the breath is the most common one. And then we have open awareness. So in open awareness, we are not directing our focus to one single thing, but we are opening our, options, our perception to see how am I feeling in the physical body right now. Is there any pain going on in the body? Is there any sensation? Is there any neutral sensation? Sounds, breath. So you can hold all of that in awareness at the same time with an attitude of kindness and non-judgment. Yeah, that's the main one. Like, it's not just about paying attention to one thing, it's the how. It's not the what, but it's the how. That is the important thing that I wanted to say. And the other one is that when we think that meditation or mindfulness is to pay attention to one single thing with direct focus, we put too much effort. And that's counterproductive. We need to drop the effort and to do it playfully. I remember in my beginning of this journey with one of my teachers, I used to say that I don't like to do breath awareness meditation because it's like I tried too much. And he's like, why do you put so much effort? There is no effort. There's a very interesting book that describes this process. It's a presence, it's effortless, and it doesn't have to be increasing the stress. It has to reduce it. So anytime we notice that we're putting too much effort in the practice, in the technique, in the holding the space, we need to drop that seriousness and just let it all be as it is. Even when we notice at this moment I'm putting too much effort, make that part of the experience and let it be that way, and it will soften on its own. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share about these 5 myths.
So that's very nice to know, and I personally have learned a lot from this session. So let's see if if the audience, some people have some doubts or questions for you. Let's like we are ready to take up any questions. Do we have any questions?
I
So
can I can
yeah.
keep going on and on and on forever on these topics, by the way. So because
Okay,
there's
so we have a question over here. Difference between mindfulness and meditation.
um, this is a big one that I like. I keep reading about it, and I keep getting, like, every time I see that people use meditation and mindfulness as if they are the same, I find it a little bit not the proper thing and the proper way. But technically, mindfulness is a skill, and it's a state that we can reach if we practice the skill long enough. So when we practice the skill of being open with a kind open heart through the practice of meditation, meditation can be any technique, then we learn to be in a state of mindfulness, which is the state of being open, kind-hearted, and present. Of course, we need meditation to develop the skill so that we can reach the state of mindfulness, constant. Meditation is something that we need at the beginning of the stage. Some people say that, oh no, I reached the state of, being aware all the time, I don't need meditation anymore. I truly don't believe that. Whoever says that they have done enough meditation in their life, it's not true. It's never enough, and it's beautiful. Like, why wouldn't you do it when you have a chance to open the gates and the doors of knowing what's going on with you at this moment without distractions, and just knowing and encountering yourselves at such a deep level? Why would you not do it? So the main difference, going back again to the question, is that meditation can be any technique. It can be, people come up with chakra alignment meditation, which is also powerful, and I used to do it a lot. With bija mantra meditation, any sort of, Osho has so many beautiful meditations, shouting and crying and laughing. But that's not gonna give you the self-awareness to keep going and know what's going on with you at a long term, in a long-term way.
Okay. So we have another question. How do we practice mindfulness for pain management?
For pain management,
Yes.
technically, mindfulness, if you practice it in any setting, which is most likely the MBSR, which is the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, stress reduction stress is a word that encompasses all sorts of pains in our lives. So I would recommend MBSR, or anyone to practice with anyone who is trained in MBSR, because the practice itself will help you to learn to relate to your pain in an evolved way, and make, especially if it's chronic pain, mindfulness has been proven to work very beautifully with people who do have conditions that are ongoing, because they learn to make that pain part of their lives, instead of to focus the awareness on this pain I'm having, and keep nagging and thinking that they just make it a part of it, and they embrace it and then hold it with kindness. And it's not that the pain goes away, but the quality of life increases. And in some cases, they have seen that the pain goes away, not fully, uh, but it's a practice to do. So what I would recommend is, try to see if you can find someone who can guide you on this MBSR journey.
Right, right. I think you've answered all our questions and all the myths. So that was really very sweet of you and very nice. Like we have learned a lot from you, and it was really great to have you today. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Aishwarya. It was nice sharing this knowledge. I'm happy to do it anytime, and hope whoever was a witness to this conversation we had gets the inspiration to get on the journey, and take much more than these 30 minutes that we just had, and they can hoping they can take it as a practice in the long run. And thank
You
you all
have
for
definitely
watching. Have
inspired
a
me.
beautiful rest of the day.
You have inspired me a lot, so I'm going to take up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Stay
thank you
blessed.
so much. Thank you. See
Bye.
you. Bye bye.